Hey, I finally worked on a feature film in my life. Oh my goodness, and it is an interesting experience. What's up, it's the Culture Detective here, investigating your favorite movies, and today I'm going to be doing another movie roundup video where I talk about the movies, TV shows, and animes I have watched in the past couple of weeks or so. Starting off, I watched SheHulk Attorney at Law, and it sucks. It's unfunny, it's boring, the characters are unlikable, and the CGI is very distracting. I get that Marvel is trying to make something really lighthearted, and it does work pretty well at times. There are jokes left and right that I chuckled a little bit, I have to admit. But aside from that, it's still really poorly written. The dialogues are really cringy, the ideas are really silly, and not even in a funny way, just in a lame way. So yeah, 3 out of 10. Then I watched 2046, directed by Wong Kar-wai, and written by Wong Kar-wai as well. This is the most Wong Kar-wai movie Wong Kar-wai has ever made. It has every single trait that a Wong Kar-wai movie has. Now, admittedly, this is probably my least favorite from him. I didn't really enjoy the first half all that much. I think it's not as well written and as well directed. But I have to admit the second half does make this movie a lot better. It's very dreamy, it's very interesting, it tackles themes of writing and inspiration, which is really good, and it's full of style. Through and through. The entire 2046 is just laced with style, and it is amazing that a movie like this exists. So yeah, I still enjoy it. Light 8. Next up, I watched RRR for my film history class for some reason, because we were talking about Indian film history. But yeah, RRR is one of the most epic movies I've ever watched in my life, and this is definitely one of the best theatrical experiences I've ever had. The movie almost made me cry, it definitely did make me laugh, it sends chills to my spine, the dancing scene, the animal jumping out of the cage scene, the fights, they're all absolutely amazingly, fantastically choreographed, and I'm just thoroughly surprised by how freaking entertaining this movie is. Another thing I love about RRR is that it fights oppression with so much positive energy and singing and dancing. It's just so fantastic. 9 out of 10. Next up, I watched Carrie, directed by Brian De Palma. And it's alright, it's a pretty good movie. The story is really simple, and it's not really that scary or anything in my opinion. But I have to admit, the prom scene is iconic every step of the way, and I love the practical effects a lot. 8 out of 10. After that, I watched Sanjiro, directed and written by Kurosawa Akira. So yeah, Sanjiro is basically part of my not-so-ongoing Kurosawa binge. It's my 9th Kurosawa film, and it's a sequel to Yojimbo from 1961. Or 62? I forgot. But yeah, it's basically like Yojimbo, but less exciting. I mean, don't get me wrong, this movie is still a tight-paced, entertaining movie. And the last act is very high stakes and very fun. The blood spurt scene is iconic as well. And it's a good movie, still. 8 out of 10. Then, for my film history class, I watched El Espiritu de Colmena, or The Spirit of the Beehive. This time we watched it because we were talking about the film history of Spain and how this is called dissident cinema or Spanish new cinema. And yeah, this is another one of those weird, abstract, artsy, slow movies that I don't really understand. But this time I kinda enjoy it. Even though I don't really understand it, I kinda enjoy it because this movie is written and directed in a way it feels like there's something magical and moody and alluring about this film, something boiling underneath. And aside from that, the cinematography is truly gorgeous. The colors are so dense and saturated and thick. It is amazing. And again, there are some deep political themes going on in this movie, and it's worth exploring and worth rewatching. 8 out of 10. Afterwards, I watched Vampyr, directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer. And unfortunately, this is the first time I watched a film from the 1930s completely, from front to back. And going into this movie, I thought this was going to be an art house silent film. and a horror film at that, and I was really excited, but I ended up being a little bit underwhelmed. First of all, it's not a silent film, it is a sound film, but it still behaves like a silent film with the constant music and the intertitles. And it's also very confusing, and not even in an enchanting, spellbinding way. It's just confusing, period. I don't really understand what's going on all the time. And again, it's not in an artsy way, I guess. Not in the way I am used to, however. So I'm just going to speak for myself here. It does get artsy from time to time. One thing for sure is that the cinematography and the editing of this film is really, really ahead of its time. Carl Theodor Dreyer uses superimposition in a genius way in this film. And I also need to rewatch it. I like it, but it is a little bit underwhelming for me. I'm just going to give it an 8 out of 10 for now. Then I went to the cinemas and watched Tar by Todd Field. And wow, this is a highbrow, high-octane psychological drama. It is an amazing character study. It has great performances, great dialogue, and great everything. What I also love about Tar is that it is so nuanced and so bold at the same time, and it's definitely going to be an Oscar contender, and 2022 has been an amazing year for films. Wow. Then I finally watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners, the new anime by Studio Trigger based off of the game Cyberpunk 2077 by CD Projekt Red. I finally gave into the hype and watched it, and it's pretty good, but it's not as great as some people say it is. The premise is kind of basic. It's not as emotionally damaging, but I have to admit, great action, great character design, and the soundtrack is pretty amazing. The anime also tackles interesting themes of power struggle and humanity, which I think is really nice. So yeah, light 8. Finally, last night, all by myself in a dark room, I watched Ring, directed by Nakata Hideo, and damn, this is a pleasant, more like unpleasant surprise. It is as scary as I had expected it to be. And this is the kind of scary that makes me want to exit full screen and turn down the volume. There's so many effective scares in this movie, and the clean, crispy editing helped that a lot. There's also a huge underlying sadness and dread that is meticulously written in this movie, and I love the ending. So yeah, definitely one of the best horror movies I've ever watched, and I just really, really enjoy it. 9 out of 10. So, have you watched these movies? From 1 to 10, how much did you rate them? Like if you like them, hate if you hate them, and subscribe if you want more. And thanks for watching. I'm still currently watching Misang right now. It's so long. I know.